My name is Rachel Merfalen, and I work in the job quality, workforce development, and employee ownership spaces as Good Future, which is a consultancy based in Columbia, Tennessee. I believe that employee ownership is the most promising economic strategy to build generational wealth and to close the wealth gap for working Americans, because I really believe that people who work for a living should be able to make a living. And I think that working in an employee-owned company is one way to guarantee that happens. If you're a business owner or a CEO and you're thinking about what's next and what's going to happen when you retire or you're done running this company, I encourage you to think about your community. I encourage you to think about your workers. And I encourage you to think about what legacy you want to leave, because when you sell your company, you have a decision to put that company and its future earnings in either the hands of a competitor or somebody who's not going to have the vision that you had for your company, or you can put that company and all the wealth it's going to generate, the value it brings to your community, into the hands of your employees, which then goes back into your community. Because we know that locally owned and run companies that are owned by their community circulate 3 times more wealth into that community. And I think that's a really important distinction. It's a really serious decision, is whether you're going to continue that legacy in your town and with your employees, or give that to someone else who may not make decisions the same way that you would and may not have your employees, your suppliers, your community, and their best interests at heart. Yeah, so one of my favorite stories is the story of Ken Baker, who is a second-generation business owner, and he learned about this thing called employee ownership. And he said, I have to explore what this looks like, because he was thinking about how he transitioned his father's company. What am I going to do? I'm not going to run this forever. And his kids didn't really want to take over ownership of the company. And he was thinking about this. He decided to transition to employee ownership, and he tested it first. He's like, first, we're just going to do a small percentage. It was 20 or 30%. And he realized that his employees responded to that, and they started taking literally more ownership of their work. They started taking care of their machines, and it was a manufacturing facility. And so they started taking better care of their equipment. They started thinking about process improvement. Folks on the front line started elevating these ideas that they had for how they can improve efficiencies in supply chain. And information from like the frontline workers that had never surfaced before to the ownership level were surfacing because the employees were owners. Fast forward, he transitioned the company to a 100% employee-owned company over, it was maybe 2 decades, don't quote me on it. I think as of last year when I talked to him, he had over 24 folks that were frontline workers that had $1 million or more in their ESOP account. And he said to me, this isn't just good for workers. He said, I could have sold my company 10 years ago to a competitor and gotten a nice cash buyout, but I got to stay involved in the company. I got to stay on payroll as an employee owner, and you can generate so much more wealth by staying involved in your company than you ever could have done for that one single paycheck. And the way that he spoke about this, you could tell that he was just so proud of the decision he made. Not only because of the economic benefit for him and his heirs and his family, but because he was able to see and witness and stay involved in the company and the continuity of the company and see the people who helped him build the company and his father build the company thrive in their roles in a way that never would have been possible had he just sold out to somebody else. That's one of my favorite stories. I have so much to say about employee ownership, and I'm not done talking about it, and we're not done exploring it. But this is a journey that we're on together. And without business owners taking the time to consider what they're leaving behind, we potentially are risking a great deal, especially when it comes to this understanding that small businesses and locally owned businesses build wealth, and they're the foundation of working people across America. That is something really special, and it's really important to preserve. And every business owner who's making a decision about whether or not to sell their company to a consolidating competitor or to invest in their local community, that I think is the most important decision that a business owner approaching retirement can make. So just consider employee ownership. Once you start going down the trail of exploration and interact with the people who have more amazing stories than you can ever imagine, I think that you'll be hooked.